Every gambler has a beginning, a crack in fate through which that lethal toxin seeps into the bloodstream. My story didn't start in the neon-lit casinos of Las Vegas. It began in a cold, deathly silent, loveless house. My name is Eiley, born in 1989. From the moment I existed, I was a transaction. In a dusty, economically forgotten Midwestern town in America, my foster mother, kind but timid, scraped together $500 from relatives and bought me from a pair of people. According to her later, fragmented recollections, the woman held me swaddled in her arms. Another woman's belly was heavily pregnant, and they were accompanied by a man with a thick southern accent. All were guarded and impatient. They took the money and vanished down the road, as if they'd never existed. That's how I became an orphan with a home. My foster mother poured all her love into me. She'd always wanted a daughter, and I filled the void in her life. She clumsily brushed my hair, and with her meager wages bought me city kid candies. But that warmth was fragile, always on the verge of being torn apart by my foster father's rage. He was a man warped by life's oppressive weight. Any affection or patience he once had was drained by endless bills and hard labor. What remained was alcohol and violence. I can still remember the sharp hiss of his belt buckle slicing through the air. Once, he had me fetch a wrench from the tool shed. When I hesitated in fear of darkness, he flew into a rage, grabbed the chained leash tied to our dog in the yard, and bound me to an isolated oak tree. Summer mosquitoes feasted on me, while shame and fear wound around me like vines until my foster mother came crying to untie me. The worst incident came over the multiplication table. One afternoon, sunlight slanted through dusty windows as he demanded I recite it. Nervous and stammering, I botched 7/8 56. His face immediately darkened like the sky before a storm. He didn't shout. He silently unbuckled his belt, folded it, dragged me to the basement, and hung my hands by a rope from a pipe. Each lash of the belt across my back and legs was accompanied by his growling. "Why are you so stupid? Why can't you get anything right?" I screamed and begged, but the beating only intensified. In that cold, dim basement, I understood for the first time that in this house, I had to tread so lightly, make no mistakes. My foster mother was my only light. After he fell asleep, she'd sneak into my room, rub ointment on my wounds. Her fingers were cold, but her tears scalding. She held me, whispering over and over, "I'm sorry, Eiley. I'm so sorry." Her apologies were my only solace in that dark childhood. But that solace ended abruptly when I turned 17. My foster mother died of illness. At the funeral, I didn't cry. I just stared blankly at her photo. That's when I knew. The last bit of warmth in the world had gone. My foster father's drinking spiraled, and his violence shed its final restraint. One night, as he drunkenly threatened to break my legs, I took the little money my foster mother left me and fled that so-called home. I thought I was escaping, to freedom, but reality was far crueler than I imagined. A kind stranger claiming to offer work lured me to a remote state. I was almost sold as a child bride to a 50-something man. The hostess of that household eyed me, as if I were merchandise. A fellow suffering woman next door, one night, pried open my door and slipped me some cash, urging me to run and never look back. That night I ran down a pitch-black country lane. Behind me was endless darkness, ahead was unknown confusion. My yearning for home had turned into an obsession drilled into my bones. All I longed for was a sanctuary where I'd feel safe and unafraid. To survive, I took a dishwashing job at a greasy roadside diner. The owner pitied me and agreed to pay in cash, under the table, $500 a month. My first husband, Mike, worked in the kitchen. He was a few years older, not handsome, but with a sunny smile. When the owner wasn't looking, he'd slip me a fresh pie. In that desperate moment, I magnified every act of kindness. I needed a lifeline so badly. Though I knew he had no money, no education, not even stable work, I married him without hesitation, naively believing that just together, we could build our own family. Married life shattered that illusion quickly. We rented a shabby apartment, peeling wallpaper, cockroaches everywhere. Mike wasn't responsible. He'd spend money drinking with pals rather than furnishing the apartment. I had no job, no income. Our only source of support was his sporadic paycheck. We fought constantly over money. He'd call me a freeloader. I'd cry accusing him of irresponsibility. Smothered by endless poverty and quarrels, I turned to a shooter game called Frontline Warfare. In the virtual world, I could be powerful and in control. That's where I met Leo, a man from Reno, Nevada. His voice was soothing. He praised my skill, listened to my complaints. He became my emotional anchor. One day in 2015, the police knocked. It broke me completely. They told me Mike had been arrested for stealing copper wire from a construction site. I felt the world spin. He'd been in trouble before. Violent brawls had landed him in jail 3 times. His family refused to help. I sank into despair. That's when Leo messaged me. "Leave that hellhole. Come to Reno." Clutching at straw, I left without a moment's hesitation. I packed a few things, fled the misery, and headed toward a completely unknown future. I told myself, I just wanted a new way of living away from Mike. Reno's air smelled of freedom and something wilder. Leo showed me a new world, game arcades and poker rooms everywhere. His favorite was a buzzing electronic arcade with a fish shooter gambling game. On its vibrant underwater screen, you controlled a turret, firing nets or cannons at fish for cash rewards. It was my first exposure to gambling. Leo was skilled, winning hundreds, even thousands each time. He'd sweep me off to expensive dinners, buy me beautiful clothes I'd never dared hope for. That lavish life, that intoxicating joy, it made me dizzy and feel like the past 20 years had been wasted. One day he answered a call mid-game and handed me his game card. "Sweetheart, watch the machine for me. I've set it to the lowest cannon. You can play slowly, just keep others from taking it until I'm back." Curiosity led me to the machine. I mimicked his moves, firing at fish, earning small points. I hadn't noticed I hit the power boost button. It turned my cannon into a golden giant. Before I knew it, I fired. A shark exploded on screen in a cascade of lights and coins. "Congratulations! You earned 30,000 points." My heart skipped, players gasped around me. I exchanged the points for over $500 in cash. That moment, a surge of joy and power washed over me like never before. That was more than a month's worth of dishwashing pay. And in that instant, I knew I was doomed. The seed of greed had rooted deep in my heart. That high didn't last. Leo and I soon drifted apart. Worse, Mike's father somehow found out my whereabouts and hounded me, demanding I return, saying he'd bailed Mike out, and as his wife, I had to come back. Legally, I was still Mike's wife. Torn between endless pressure, I returned to that suffocating cage. Things were worse than before. Mike ranted about me seeing another man, his abuse worsened. Poverty was tighter than ever. We considered even a decent steak a luxury. In despair, I thought of the rush from that fish shooter machine. I scoured the web for similar games and found several platforms. Hiding it from Mike, I sold our old motorcycle for $100, telling myself I'd just try it, maybe earn a little. I downloaded the flashiest app and deposited $50. Playing only the fish mode, familiar to me, after an hour I turned $50 into $200. I withdrew money immediately. 3 minutes later my bank confirmed the deposit and my hands trembled. So fast, so easy. From then on, I was lost. At first, I had luck, winning tens or hundreds a day. I improved life, believed I was a natural winner. But luck ran out. I started losing, worsening. To recoup, I bet more and soon couldn't afford food. At worst, I begged friends for $5 or $10 for bread. When all seemed lost, I remembered another online friend from the game, Jerry. He played in a different region. We chatted, he was kind and polite. Desperate, I messaged him, asking to borrow money. He replied instantly, "How much?" I dared. "Could I borrow $200? "Sure." He transferred it via an app immediately. His generosity overwhelmed me. Conversation turned frequent. They ranged from gaming to life. I confided in him about my misfortune. He listened patiently. He was from a tech company well off. Mike had long been seeing another woman, so our marriage was dead in everything but name. Jerry eventually said, "Eiley, come be with me. I'll take care of you." That sentence lit up my darkness. Over time, I realized he was kind, composed, responsible, the kind of man I'd always hoped for. This time I wasn't fleeing, I was running toward hope. I resolved, once with Jerry, I'd quit gambling entirely. I refused to let the filthy secret destroy the new life I fought for. I filed for divorce from Mike as fast as I could. It was peaceful, like relief washing through me. Late April the following year, Jerry and I married with friends and family's blessing. His parents, Robert and Carol, were gracious. They treated me like a daughter. We received generous gifts, and combined with his more than $8,000/month income, suddenly life was abundant. For the first time, I felt I truly had a warm, stable home. After marriage, I wanted to work, didn't want to idle. But Jerry said softly, "Darling, you don't need to. I'll get you a top-of-the-line computer. You can play games you like, just be happy." He loved me, spoiled me like a princess. I basked in that happiness, nearly forgetting my past suffering and the dirty addiction. I promised to be a good wife and cherish this hard-won joy forever. Life was peaceful, but for me, peace sometimes meant boredom. Jerry went to work daily, and I had no friends in this city. The powerful PC became my only companion. I played big RPGs at first, but they drained too much time and effort, and weariness set in. My life was like a survivor floating at sea who finally landed on a lush, deserted island. Everything I needed was there, safe and comfortable, but I was alone. Loneliness, an invisible hand, gradually squeezed my throat. One day in a Discord gaming group, I heard a familiar word, fish shooting. Someone bragged about winning thousands a day from a mobile fish shooter game. That word immediately unlocked Pandora's box of memory. filled with stimulation and ecstasy. My heart itched uncontrollably. I told myself, I'll just play a little, win enough to buy Jerry a gift. He'd be so happy. That excuse sounded perfect, so full of love that it lulled all suspicion. I downloaded the app. It was the same interface, music, canon. I deposited $100, quickly turned it into $300. I cashed out at once, then went shopping and bought Jerry the watch he'd longed for. He was surprised and overjoyed, spinning me around in delight. His happiness became my green light to keep gambling. I convinced myself I could control it, that I was creating wealth for our family. But once gambling's demon is unleashed, it won't go back in. At first I showed restraint, sometimes losing, sometimes winning. But soon, I lost $1,500. I pushed bigger bets to recover, with disastrous results, losing $7,000 in just 3 days. Our savings vanished like being swallowed by a black hole. No matter how I switched rooms or played, I lost. Panic seized me. I feared Jerry discovering. I managed the household account he rarely checked. That trust became my shield for hiding deceit. I began siphoning our joint savings, from hundreds of dollars at a time to over 1,000. My rationality was obliterated by the illusion of one more try. Numbers danced on the screen, and my heart simmered in hell. The fleeting thrill of winning soon gave way to crushing emptiness and fear. Within 6 months, nearly $100,000, our savings for a house and children, was gone. Eventually the truth had to come out. Jerry had been eyeing a new SUV. I made excuse after excuse. Current car still works. Let's wait for a newer model. Then one evening, he showed me a brochure excitedly, said he'd contacted the dealer, we'd sign the deposit that weekend. I couldn't dodge anymore. That night I sat across from him, tears streaming. I confessed everything. I was addicted to online gambling. The savings were all gone. I'll never forget Jerry's expression, shock, disbelief, then deep pain. His eyes felt like a knife. He was silent so long I thought he'd divorce me on the spot. Instead, he finally exhaled deeply, pulled me into his arms. His voice shaky. The money is gone, we can earn more. Eiley, I'm just afraid. Afraid of losing you. Promise me, don't ever do that again, please. I leaned into him, crying as if my heart would break. I swore the worst oath. If I ever touched it again, I'd deserve the worst fate. That remorse was sincere, gratitude too. I believed that would be my final mistake. I deleted every gambling app from my phone and stayed clean for a time. But resentment lingered, like roots spreading wildly underground. The $100,000 loomed over me like a mountain. I felt it was lost by mistake, and believed I could win it back with skill. That thought drove me back to the abyss. I started taking small sums from Jerry, citing going out with friends, buying clothes, etc. He never hesitated to give. I saved up and plunged again. Unsurprisingly, that money vanished too, like stones thrown into the ocean without a sound. When no more money came, I reached out to an old suitor. He knew I was married, but held on to hope. Fueled by lust and greed, I contacted him and asked to borrow money. He replied bluntly, I'll give you cash, but you must meet me. I realized that would cross my final line and refused. Days later, he said he was traveling on business to Chicago and could stop by my city to hand it over. Jerry had a conference exactly when he'd be away for 2 days. Temptation surged, I agreed. I still feel sick at how close I came to selling myself. Luckily, before he traveled, the conference got canceled. I concocted excuses and refused to meet. I was one step away from losing myself. That narrow escape didn't wake me. It made me crazier, more desperate for money. I felt like a beast trapped in a cage. In the end, I walked down the darkest, irretrievable path. Robert and Carol, Jerry's parents, wanted grandchildren more than anything. They mentioned it often. That neighbor's grandchild is so cute. We've already prepared a nursery. A grotesque thought formed in my mind. I bought a pregnancy test at the pharmacy. Then, using a trick I'd learned online, made it show 2 lines. I photographed it and sent it to Carol. The phone rang instantly, her voice trembling with joy. Eiley, is this true? Oh my heavens. I'm going to be a grandmother. I spoke into the phone in a voice strange even to myself, filled with joy. Yes, Carol. We finally have it. That lie became a universal key, unlocking their store. From that moment, they called me every few days to wire money, nutrition costs, prenatal tests, best maternity supplies. I claimed to have bigger appetite, irregular meals. I gained weight convincingly. They believed completely. I used the money, stained with lies, to continue my inevitably losing gambling war. I played the part of a happy, expectant mother, basked in love and blessing. In dark nights, I stared at my phone's screen, wide-eyed in dread, watching numbers dance and vanish. My personality was shattered beyond repair.